All right. Welcome in. Welcome. How is everybody doing? I already can see we're going to have some problems here with my charts. I'm going to have to do a reset quickly. Just bear with me for 1 second. I'm going to do a reset on the screen. You're going to see it black out for a second, and then we'll get it back. So bam, bam, and now we're back in business. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. How is everybody doing? Welcome in. Barbara, Tevin, Salsa, welcome in, guys. Kwame, welcome in, everybody. Happy Tuesday. We do have a lot to go over this morning. We always have a lot to go over this morning. A lot to go over every day, but today's session, we're going to talk a lot about what is happening in the market. The demand pullbacks have come in, okay? We talked yesterday about demand stepping up down below. Fortunately, I was not there to trade much of the demand holds. I was there to look for the breakdowns early morning. I caught a little bit of Tesla action, or should I say Tesla caught me? I think I should say Tesla caught me. I can't say I caught Tesla. Tesla caught me. Anyway, I shorted Tesla. This was one of my best breakdown trades yesterday, one of the weakest names, and then got caught in a little bit of liquidity grab under lows, jumped out, and that was my day yesterday. I ended up red yesterday's session under this 290 level on Tesla. That being said, we'll talk about Tesla today. We're going to talk about Tesla today and what we will do on it today if we do trade it today. But we'll talk about the demand stepping up down below, right? You saw yesterday's session, demand come in off of our level, right? We just broke down under 290. We saw some rejections come in early morning and then reclaimed 290, and some upside came in throughout the day. And that was really the summary of Tesla yesterday was liquidity grab down below, right? And that's different from other names though, right? We have a lot of other names, like SPY, for example. SPY maintained demand, right? So SPY also held demand yesterday. We did pull back to our demand zones. We spoke a little bit about this yesterday. We spoke about the idea of being open to pullbacks on SPY, and the market did sell off. Now, what I wish I would have done better yesterday was I wish I would have just gotten early morning on some of the downside moves and taken the puts into the open and then look for longs back in the afternoon. I ended up scalping some SPY. I made money. I ended up scalping SPY off our demand, or 619 level. We longed back in demand, and that was my day yesterday. So I ended up getting a little bit back off of the SPY trade, but ultimately Tesla was a much bigger loss for me because Tesla was just a crazy grab under lows. Anyway, we're going to talk about it today. We'll talk about SPY. We'll go over Qs. We'll talk about the QQ level, big level below, right? This was kind of the reason why I was looking for longs even into the afternoon session was because QQQ was pulling back to 550 demand below, right? One of the biggest things that we had down below was 550 NQs, and this is where the market held, right? We knew market was going to pull back to demand, and it did. It's what happened, right? It pulled back to demand. Now, unfortunately, I can't say I was there to catch the early morning breakdowns. I wish I was, but the demand did step up in the afternoon session, right? And one of the theme of today's pre-market, right? Yesterday we spoke about downside, right, in the pre-market. Today's session we're talking about demand maintaining, demand holding, right? That's the theme of today's session. So understand it's a different theme from yesterday. Yesterday was mostly, hey, let's pull back to demand. Today's session is, oh, wait a second, we got our demand pullbacks, right? We pulled back to our hourly demand ERQs. We pulled back to our levels on SPY, right? SPY, actually, if you traded just SPY yesterday, you probably did good. But bearing a little bit of Trump talking, right? I ended up going long. I actually went long here on SPY too. I went long right there, right before the Trump dump. I got out right when Trump was starting to speak, and then I longed to get over here and made money. But you have to understand, yesterday's session was quite difficult, right? Until around 12 o'clock, it was quite difficult, right? Action was pretty muted. It was just an early morning trend down day. So just keep in mind, today's session, though, it's different from yesterday, right? Yesterday's session was all about downside early morning, right? Today's session is, wait, we got the downside. We pulled back to the demand. Now what, right? So it's a different theme. We'll talk about ES chart. We'll go over ES chart. We'll talk about the 6280 level, and we're also going to talk about that breakout level 6250. So big levels today. We'll go over it. We're going to talk about AMD. In my opinion, the most clear charts this morning are actually on semis. The reason why I'm saying that is because semis maintained yesterday, right? Semis, 133 on AMD. This was something I just like. This was like the most clear long setup yesterday. Unfortunately, I cannot say I took this either, but AMD 133 was incredible. Now today, where is the value? The value today in AMD is going to be over 138, right? There's two levels in AMD. We'll talk about it, 138, 140, right? Why is this chart so important to us, right? Because what did it do yesterday? It pulled back to critical demand, right? We've double bottom off critical demand. We now can look for continuation trades on this into highs. This is a beautiful bull flag. As long as it's holding 133, there is opportunity here, right? So even though the market did maintain demand yesterday on AMD off 133, it doesn't mean the opportunities are over, right? This chart is just only beginning, and we can talk about that, where it's going to go, where we can trade this moving forward, okay? So, but that being said, guys, we're going to go over Nvidia, Tesla. We'll talk about the whole lot today. Before I do anything, though, I want to go over econ data. Then we'll dive back into our charts, and we'll have a good early morning pre-market session. So today's session is Tuesday, July the 8th. This morning, we don't really have any data, kind of similar to yesterday. I mean, we did have 12 o'clock data yesterday with Trump talking. Today's session, it looks like there is nothing on the docket. Just be aware that he may speak at any random time. So just always be active on Twitter. Make sure that he's not doing that while you're in a trade, right? That was what happened to me yesterday as well. I was literally 40 contracts deep. This is the craziest thing. I was 40 contracts deep in 0 DTE and 40 contracts deep in 1 DTE. 30 seconds into Trump speaking. It was the most insane thing. If I maintained my position for 2 minutes longer, I would have lost probably $4,000. Understand that we are still at risk of all these tariff things happening until Wednesday, right? Yesterday, I spoke about the idea of Wednesday being an important session because of tariff talks. I was kind of wrong about that. It's not just Wednesday, it's Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So understand that as we are approaching that Wednesday deadline, there's going to be a whole bunch of headwinds that could potentially impact the market, right? So make sure you're sizing, right, appropriately, and make sure you're not at risk of headline news. I mean, you're always at risk of headline news, but just be aware and monitor what's going around in front of you, because you don't want to be knee deep in 0 DTE, SPX, ES long, and then all of a sudden Trump says yada yada yada, right? Not political. I'm not saying anything political here. I'm just saying be careful of potential headline news today, because that obviously is going to impact the market. Okay. That being said, I had 80 contracts. I had literally 80 contracts. Yesterday's session was not a good session for me. I had a lot of size in some of these trades. I had a lot of size in Tesla. I had a lot of size in SPY. It was just one of those days where you think you have the right idea, right? And you build size and conviction, but the ideas are not really working. And that's the most dangerous. That's the most dangerous, right? Because if you, and this is the biggest thing, is like, if you tried to average down yesterday on some of these positions, let's just say you saw Tesla downside, I'm going to average down short on this one, right? You got washed. If you tried to average down longs yesterday, you got washed, right? No matter what you did, if you tried to average down the demands, you got washed. So the key thing was understanding, hey, even though we are larger size in these trades, get out fast, right? Because when you're wrong, you are just wrong. That's it. There's no recovery here. Just look for other trades. Anyway, today's session, Tuesday, 11 o'clock data. That's all we have today's session. Nothing of importance moving forward. We do have consumer credit at 3 p.m., but I doubt that's going to cause much impact on the market. Anyway, I want to spend today talking about charts. That's why you guys are here. That's what we're going to spend the entirety of today focusing on. We are going to talk first about the S&P chart. You averaged down and got lost. Yeah, that's the thing is it's going to happen, right? There's going to be days where you build ultra conviction in setups and you average down, you lose a lot of money. You need to there's a balance between having conviction in the trade and also understanding when you're wrong, right? And you can ask yourself this is, when's the best point in time to get in a trade? The best point in time to get in a trade is right before you're wrong, right? And I know it's a weird thing to say that, but that's the way I like to trade. Is if I'm short Tesla, right, I want to get in to the Tesla trade at the exact moment where I'm still right, but not too right. Because if I'm buying a low day, I'm too right now, right? I want to be getting. It's a weird thing to say, but I want to get in as close as possible to where I am wrong, right? And that again, it's just basically saying get in closer to stop loss. That's really all I'm saying here, right? But if you do that and it clears your stop, you know you're wrong, right? So like the biggest thing about these directional moves the past week or so has been you're either right or you're wrong, right? The market trends in one direction. So when it invalidates your levels, just get out, right? Simple as that. Anyway, guys, we are going to dive into charts. We're going to talk about SPY. Big levels on SPY today, big demand pullbacks on SPY. And I think the biggest thing was actually on the ES chart, but we're going to talk about it. So on the SPY chart yesterday, we had a pretty strong open, right? So we had a strong open on Thursday session, and then Friday or Monday morning we were in supply, and we were, I think, well prepared for this. The one thing I'll say that I did well yesterday was I didn't long the open, right? I knew not to go long off the open. That was probably the one thing yesterday that was solid, right? We knew not to go long back into supply. We ended up pulling back into demand yesterday, right? And this was where you could begin to long, was back into our breakout level, back into that 619, 620 level, right? That was the breakout level that we had, and that was the level we spoke about us needing to pull back to for longs to work better, right? And so market did pull back to demand. It didn't make it easy though, right? You guys saw yesterday, it wasn't a demand that was like, oh, we tapped the level and rip immediately. No, it didn't do that, right? We did pull back, we did tap demand below, but it wasn't pretty, right? We saw some upside initially, then we saw a little breakdown and reclaim of the level, and that's where more upside came in. So you did see some whim whams yesterday, back under 619. But the key thing to note yesterday is even though you did see some liquidity grabs under lows under 619, and then we ended up ripping after that. This doesn't matter. What matters for us this morning is the fact that we are still above 619, right? That's the key thing to note, right? We are above 619. We are above our breakout level. And what made us more bearish yesterday, what made us more expecting of downside yesterday's session was not because we were breaking any critical levels. It was because we were moving upside for too long. We were overheated. We were an overcooked goose, right? Overcooked chicken. And we were back in supply. So the pullbacks were necessary. But the pullbacks that came in yesterday were by no means bearish. And I think it's a very important thing to understand. Even though we did see downside come in the morning session, it was by no means bearish until we lose 619. So we this morning are actually still bullish as long as we're above 619. If we do see a breakdown under 619 today, a break and fail under 619, you could see more downside today and systematic downside back into 615. That could be a potential trade today. But again, what must happen for real downside to come in is a breakdown under our breakout level. Okay, so if we break back under 619, that's where more downside comes in, and we can look for shorts back lower into 615 and only back into 615. That being said, though, we understand, and we all should understand this, that we did pull back to our demand yesterday, our double top demand before the breakout level, right, on Wednesday session, and we just pulled back to it. This, in our eyes, is considered a break and a retest pullback long for upside continuation. That's all this is for us, right? That's the only thing my read right now is this is simply just a break and retest long back into demand. So today's session, if I'm trading this, I'm looking for this today. I'm looking to see, can 619 hold? If it does, longs. Or I'm looking for, can we get a break and hold above 622.50, right? And this is a new level I'm adding to my chart this morning, a level that we didn't really discuss yesterday. But 622.50 is a critical level today's session. If we can break and hold above 622.50, I think we see a move back into our pre-market highs on Monday and back into the all-time highs here from Thursday's session. So for me this morning, I'm watching mostly upside above 622.5, or I'm watching a 619 pullback long. That's really it. That's really what I'm focusing on today. And if we do fail today, the failure is going to be if this happens. And that would be a really good surgical short and downside play we can watch out for today. So again, SPY is pretty simple. 619 demand holding. If we're above 619, we're bullish. If we're below 619, we're bearish. On the ES chart, the levels are also very much so there, right? We knew yesterday that the pullback was likely going to come in. Okay, now we did pull back. We saw some bounces off the Wednesday's highs, 6280. Wednesday's high 6280, which was our Wednesday high level. Okay, we then saw us systematically sell back under 6280, break, retest, downside move all the way back into 6250, which is our demand zone below our breakout level. Remember the highs of that Monday into Sunday session, the highs of that Monday session, the highs of that Tuesday session, right? This was a very surgical pullback, a very slow, grindy pullback to our demand zone below, and we saw some balanced moves come in, some buyers come in off of our breakout level from yesterday, right? So the key thing to note though is that even though we saw some early morning downside yesterday, and I don't want to say early morning, it's not just early morning, we saw systematic downside yesterday. All we did was we systematically saw downside back into demand below. Okay, so what I will be watching out for today's session is I would say, okay, we are bullish as long as we are above 6250. We can scalp for longs above highs. So if you're looking for scalp longs today, I would look for longs above the SPY levels, which you guys know is 62250, which should be a little bit under 6300, right? So for me, I would say on the ES chart, if you really want to get active long, you want to look for a break and hold above 6300. That's where upside can come in the market, and we can look for a high push back into our pre-market highs of Monday and back into our Thursday highs, which is our all-time highs. So again, this is what I'm seeing, right? I'm seeing slow pullback to demand, markets bounced off demand, we're seeing some buying pressure come in. The question now becomes, do we get continuation? If we fail today, right, I don't want you to think I'm just a broken clock bull. I'm not a broken clock bull. If we see us lose the 6250, 6256, the breakout level, that would be my short trade today. And I look for shorts and then move back down lower. Again, today's session, I'm trying to stick with trend pretty early, right? I'm not trying to go against it. Let's stick with the overall direction of the market, and that's what I'm looking for today. Okay, so very simple analysis of our SPY and ES, and I hope you guys understand that, right? And yesterday, if you recall, this is what we spoke about, right? We spoke about downside coming in. Now today we're talking more about upside. So again, the theme matters. Today is about demand maintaining the market. Okay, on the QQQ chart, on the Qs chart. This was probably the best trade yesterday, right? We said on the Qs, if you're watching for a trade, June highs is here, that's a big level, but the 550 level is our major hourly pivot. This is your major long spot yesterday in the Qs, and that was the best demand hold yesterday, right? This was simply the best demand hold yesterday, and that was where longs saw the best continuation moves, right? And this is something you guys have to know is if you are trading SPY, watching Qs is going to incredibly increase your win rate, right? Because if you try to say, well, Brett said go long at the SPY, Brett said go long here at SPY 619, right? And okay, if we lose 619, downside move. So let's say you long back at demand lows, right? And you say, well, Brett said we can go short back under 619, downside move, right? Well, if you noticed yesterday, while SPY was breaking down under our 619 level, which it technically did, right? QQQ was simply just pulling back toward demand lows yesterday, 450. So discrepant SPY and Qs yesterday, but sometimes those discrepant trades can provide such good value, right? Because you knew yesterday that break under 619 SPY was probably a fake breakdown, right? So longing the reclaim was the best possible trade yesterday into the afternoon session. Now today's session, what are we doing? 550 is maintaining. We are above the June highs of 552.50. By all means, right now in SPY we're bullish, right? There's nothing changing us here, right? This is simply just a bull chart. The only thing that would change me here, okay, is this. If we see us break under 550, that's where I am now no longer bullish. And I would look for a fading move back down into the lower 540s. So again, our bias is determined by whether we are above 550 or we're below 550, okay? This finishes off my indice analysis. We're going to dive into charts now. We're going to start off with Tesla. We'll go over Tesla, Amazon, AMD. We'll go over the whole lot today. Hydration first. I'm going to read the chat. What are you guys talking about? What's going on here? Are people arguing? No one's arguing. I thought you guys were fighting in the chat, but everyone is overcooked. I have very bad analogies. I have very, very bad analogies sometimes. I thought the deadline was pushed back till August. I think I did see news on that, Marcel. I think I did see news on that. I know that it was up until yesterday, it was supposed to be for Wednesday, but it might have been pushed back. Right. So let's talk about it. Let's go over charts today. So first chart of the day that I want to talk about is going to be one of my top watches. We'll just start with this one because again, let's talk about the good ones, right? And the good ones this morning for me, AMD is one of my top watches. The reason why I like AMD is because I have and this is like not just applicable to AMD. This is a common theme on semis today that we're going to talk about. So AMD is in a beautiful flag play. Okay, this is kind of similar to that chart on SPY, right? You see the demand step up off of our level, right? You have a double top highs, and then breakout from that Tuesday Wednesday session. In this case is Tuesday on AMD. On SPY it was really Wednesday where the breakout happened, but it was a beautiful breakout on AMD above 133. We pulled back to 133 yesterday's session, and we are now ripping off 133. The question becomes, does the market give us continuation? Do semis give us continuation? I would look for this today. If I'm trading AMD, I'm looking for either a 137, 138 breakout. If the breakout happens, this is an earlier breakout. This would be an early breakout. I know it's early. It's not the critical breakout, but this should get us at least back into 140. So above 138, you have that $2 upside trade back into 140. The real high conviction break occurs if we clear above 140, right? Above 140, this is where the market can really get going, and this is where you can really see continuation. Above 140, above 140, above 140. If we can clear 140, that's where you can look for more upside today's session on AMD. So above 138 or above 140, watching both of them. If you want to be surgical today and you want the highest conviction trade, then probably just wait till 140 breaks, right? Probably wait till 140 breaks, and you can look for a breakout trade back to 142 and back into the highs here, 148. Again, AMD is a chart that has found buyers off support, right? But the question is now, does this chart build today? Does the chart continue today? Watching for above 137, 138 rather, 138, not 137, 138. We're watching for above that 140 level. And if you're asking why am I talking about 138 as a level, the reason why is because if you go to the 5-minute time frame and zoom in here for a second, you're going to see that 138 level would be a reclaim of our lows from Thursday, a reclaim from our Monday level in the pre-market session, and it would be a reclaim of that Tuesday level and that Wednesday breakout level. So you can see 138 is an important level. It's not as critical as 140, right? But it is a really big level to watch out for reclaims. So watching above 138 for longs. It grouped together with AMD, of course, is Nvidia, right? And Nvidia is also kind of doing the same thing. Nvidia is strong, okay? Now, the problem with Nvidia for me today is I just don't really have as clear levels as I do on AMD, but the overall theme on this chart is the same, okay? We have a beautiful hold of our Wednesday's highs. So you can see that we have a high Wednesday produced here, July the 2nd, Wednesday, July 2nd, here at 157.50, okay? We see a breakout above that 157.50 in Thursday session, big breakout. And then on Monday session, all we did was we consolidated above demand. Today's session, I would say this. We are bullish as long as we are above this level here, and we can look for a breakout trade above 160, right? If we clear 160, I think we see a push to all-time highs and potentially beyond all-time highs. Remember, our all-time highs is right here. Our all-time highs is 161. So if we see us clear 160, I would argue we can look for a break and retest type trade for a move back to 161 and potentially beyond 161, right? This could be a beautiful all-time high PDM move, right? Above our 161 level. So I think we should watch this today, right? To me, it's not as clear as Nvidia, or as AMD rather, but we can watch this today, right? Watch for 160 break. If that happens, like for longs. If this loses our Wednesday low Wednesday high and our Monday low, if we get back under this level, this is a short, okay? So this would be your short trade today, and a move down lower is most likely the case. So again, this is all we're doing today, guys. We're just trading levels, right? This is everything we do is just simply level based. This is why, and this is so important, is even when you have red days in the market, right? You're gonna go back and you should see other things there's gonna be so many opportunities you missed and so many things you see. This is why I love trading, because even though I may shoot for 2 or 3 opportunities, right, on a given day, but there's probably 10 opportunities in every session, right? This was one of the opportunities yesterday, and this makes me happy to see. Why? Because That's what the market, as long as the market gives opportunities, there are going to be trades available, right? Now, today's session, the opportunities are pretty simple on Nvidia, right? It's either this or it's this. Let's watch and see. Let's watch and see what we can get today here on Nvidia's chart. Anyway, on the SMH chart, this to me, I mean, you saw yesterday we pulled back to 275, we reclaimed it. I mean, this was a really onto Wednesday session, and then the Wednesday session, the second, we ripped higher, and then yesterday in Monday, we didn't really do anything yesterday on semis. We just simply saw a little bit of a grind pullback, but into no levels here. There is an argument that Nvidia's, or rather semis, still need pullbacks, right? And the argument could be that we want to see back into 275 for longs, right? That could be a potential argument, right? You want to see 275 for pullbacks. Again, we're gapping up pre-market here because of chip strength, but this is your big demand below 275. We still have not tested it after that big upside day on Wednesday, okay? That's all it is. So moving on, we're gonna go over all the tickers today. Let's go over Amazon. Amazon consolidation above you see Monday's level, right? We consolidated above Monday's level was 222.50, 223, and then it's interesting. I mean, we didn't really do anything yesterday on Monday, right? Monday session on Amazon, we kept very, very much so in channel all day, right? So this chart has been very much so channel bound. The only interest I have here on Amazon is if we can get above the high of June, right? The high of June is 225. If we can see a break and hold above 225, I can look for upside in this chart back in highs. That's the only thing I have interest here on Amazon. As long as you're under 225, there really is no interest. There really is no trade from here. So keep it far on the back burner. Okay. Tesla. This is the reason why I was talking about something early morning today, was trying to get in as close as possible to your levels. And sometimes you're just going to be flat out wrong, right? And yesterday I was just flat out wrong, right? Understanding this is why, like, being a nimble trader is one of the most important parts about trading, because I've been the person too that's done this. Trust me, I've done this a million times. I see a demand, I see a big demand, right, on SPY, right? And what I'll do is I'll come in the market, right, and I'll buy calls, and I'll buy calls, and I'll buy calls, and I'll buy calls, right? And I'll lose $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 in a trade like this if I don't manage it properly, right? You can just continue to do it, right? But you know you're wrong. As soon as this happens, as soon as you break under your level, you know you're wrong, right? That's when you have to say, you know what? I was wrong about this trade. I'm going to move on to the next setup that day, and I'll take the next one that approaches, right? And if there is no setup that approaches, then there's no trades you write for the day, right? But if there is a setup that approaches, you're going to execute when it's there. Now, Tesla was bearish if we were under 290, right? The level yesterday on this chart was 290. We were bearish under 290. And what did we do yesterday, right? We broke under 290, right? We broke right under 290. We came back for the retest at 290. And what did we do? We reclaimed, right? That was the reclaim yesterday. Market reclaimed 290, and this was no longer a bear chart. It actually turned into a bull chart. It turned into a bull chart all day off of the 290 level and ripped into close. That's what it was yesterday. This was a classic bear trap, right? Back into bull, upside all day. You have to remain nimble as a trader. Now, today's session on Tesla, this chart is still bullish, right? Nothing has fundamentally changed about this chart. It is still a bull side chart. And what can we do here now? Well, the only thing I'm going to do here now is say this. If we clear above 300, we have gap fill, right? We have gap fill. So you could watch us today for longs is the break and hold above 300 for a gap fill type trade back into highs here, 312. So keep this in the back burner today, right? If you were bearish under 290, what are you above 290? You're simply bullish, right? So look for longs above 300. If we can reclaim 300, gap fill play back into 312. That's all it is, guys. That is all it is, right? And sometimes in trading, you just are flat out wrong. You have to understand when you're right or when you're wrong. That's why we do levels, right? That's why we charter levels. So we understand directionally when we're right and when we're wrong, okay? Next chart is Apple. Apple chart. Apple 214, right? Still applicable from yesterday is just 214, 214, 214, again rejecting. This to me is a trade we can't trade until it gets above 214, right? If we can get above 214, break and retest long opportunity. Yesterday's session, you did see us break and hold above 214, but it didn't close above, right? There was no long yesterday, no closures above 214. I think it closed at 214.2, so technically a small closure above, but look at the size of this wick coming in, right? So no long there. But if we can reclaim 214 with conviction, that's where this is a long opportunity today, right? So watching above 214 for longs, but until then, keeping us on the back burner for today's session. Right, so I'm going to go over some tickers you guys are watching. B Cross says NQ. Yep, I'll go over NQ for you. B Cross says NQ. On the NQ chart, we just pulled back to demand yesterday, 22,822. Today's session, we are back into our supply here, 23,000 flat. I would say if you're looking for longs today on the NQ, you're looking for this to happen, right? Look for this little look for this little demand, little retest of little break and retest of our supply here, our Monday high supply for longs. So I know this is a little bit different from QQQ, right? In QQQ chart, I'm talking about really it's the same thing though. Look, if you're looking for longs on Qs, it's really above 555, right? And if you correlate that to the NQ chart, it's just saying this. It's saying let's look for longs back above that Monday's highs, right? Monday's pre-market highs, 23,000. So you do have correlation there on NQ and QQQ, which would confirm this is a good trade today. So watch for a break and hold above 23,000. Okay. Moving on, guys. Moving on. How many likes do I have? We have 368 likes, and we have 1,279 people here in the pre-market session, which is diabolical. That is embarrassing. It's diabolical. I do this look guys, I do this every day. Even after big red days for me. I'm still here showing you guys the levels with enthusiasm, right? I do this every day, right? The one thing I ask is please get the likes up. It does help me. Even the donations, you guys know donations aren't even for me. I'm gonna give it back to you. The only thing I ask for is the likes. That's the one thing I ask for. So please, I want to see at least on a session like today, I want to see at least 600 likes. That would be a fun thing to have. Anyway, on the meta chart, meta chart, and there's an argument that I'm giving too much away because I shouldn't even really be doing the stuff that I do here on YouTube. But it's okay. Meta 705. 705 is a level. To be honest with you, I don't really have. I have nothing to say here on Meta, right? You guys know sometimes I reserve the right to not say anything on Meta, and that's a very common thing for me. But for now, I would say in Meta, I would be looking for this, right? If I can get this type of trade, I would love it, and I look for longs back at 705. That being said, if you want to go crazy in Meta today, you could look for longs above the 725 area, right? I see 725 as a level. I could look for longs above 725. Or I could look for longs back in demand here around this 705. Those are the only things I see here, right? Either longs back at 705 or longs above 725. Right. Wow. We almost got the 600 likes. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. So last ticker of the day, guys. PLTR. So PLTR is strong, right? You guys saw a little bit of some buying come in on the PLTR chart. The only thing I have in front of us right now is 140 resistance, right? 140 is your big level. If we can clear 140, I'm looking for longs back at 147.50, right? And I shouldn't even say I'm looking for longs, right? I'm just saying that's what I would do if I was trading this chart. I would say this, right now 140 is the clear as day pivot. If we're below 140, we're bearish. If we're above 140, we're bullish. We have not cleared the level yet, right? So if you are looking for longs on PLTR, it's got to be above this 140 level. That's it. That's all it is here in PLTR. Above 140, break, retest, long side trade back in the highs here, back in all-time highs plus. That's the only thing I see here in PLTR. If we fail below here at 140, then this would look like this, right? So again, kind of 50-50 here, but we'll see what happens here at PLTR chart. Anyway, guys, thank you all for joining in. Let's have a good day today. Let's just have a good day today. Let's have a good session. Let's make some money. That's all it's about. Thank you all for joining in, and I'll see you guys all for live trading. Bye, guys.